There are moments in sports that feel like the universe presses pause. Moments so unreal that the mind struggles to keep up, the heart races ahead, and the world collectively asks the same question: what did we just witness? This was one of those moments. Not because the favorite won, not because the storyline followed the script, but because a young athlete, still carving out her identity in the brutal world of elite tennis, walked into an arena full of doubters and walked out having rewritten everything. Rankings, predictions, reputations, shattered. Replaced by something nobody saw coming. When that final ball drifted long and the stadium exploded, it wasn't just a scoreboard lighting up. It was a warning shot across the entire sport. A declaration from a player who had been underestimated for far too long. Someone who stared down a world number one without blinking, without flinching, without giving an inch. Not to the pressure. Not to the moment. Not to the towering expectations stacked against her. That athlete was Eala. And what the world saw that day was only the outer shell of a much bigger story. The real storm, the quiet fire, the evolution, the hidden battles that sculpted her into the competitor she is, was still buried under layers most fans had never heard about. To understand how she pulled off one of the most electrifying upsets of the decade, we need to go back. Back to the moment she stepped on court, where everything already felt strangely different. It wasn't loud confidence. She didn't strut. She didn't glare. She didn't act like she had something to prove. It was the opposite. A calm so deep that it unsettled the veteran across the net before a single point was played. As Eala adjusted her strings, fans watching sensed something unusual. Not arrogance, certainty. The kind of certainty that turns silence into pressure for the person watching you. The expectation was simple. The top seed, a champion with a resume full of trophies, was supposed to cruise. Just another day, another victim, another young challenger learning how ruthless the elite tier can be. That's what everyone assumed. Everyone except Alex. Because her eyes that day weren't the eyes of an underdog. They were the eyes of someone who had already decided she wasn't backing down. The first rally confirmed it. Sharp footwork, perfect spacing, controlled aggression. Nothing wild, nothing desperate. It wasn't the frantic swinging you see from inexperienced players trying to shock a star. It was something cold, calculated, surgical. Every shot landed exactly where it needed to. She moved like someone who had been preparing for this moment for years. By the time the scoreboard read 3-2, the shift was unmistakable. The champion was rattled, not because she was playing poorly, but because she was being denied every tool she usually used to suffocate opponents. No free points. No rhythm. No fear. Eala gave her nothing. And when that forehand ripped down the line to break serve, the entire arena exhaled at once. It felt historic before the set even finished. Something was unfolding that defied logic, defied rankings, defied every narrative analysts had been repeating all season. At 6-3, social media detonated. Clips of Eala's forehand flooded timelines. Fans were stunned. Analysts were scrambling. Even players on tour were posting mid-match reactions, unable to believe what they were watching. And the wildest part? Alex wasn't finished, not even close. Big upsets happen. Tennis is unpredictable. But this wasn't one of those random sparks of brilliance from a young player with nothing to lose. This was domination. This was a methodical dismantling of a champion who had intimidated an entire generation. A player known for crushing dreams, shutting down momentum, and smothering rising stars before they could even breathe. Yet here she was, looking human. And the person doing it was a 20-year-old from Manila who refused to blink. Every time the world number one tried to launch a counterattack, Eala absorbed it and sent it right back. Deep returns, impeccable defense, fearless aggression. Her clarity under pressure was something nobody expected, not even her most dedicated supporters. You could almost see the veteran's confusion as the match continued. Why isn't she bending? Why isn't she cracking? Why isn't she giving me anything? And yet, the world still hadn't seen the wildest chapter of this match. Because once the scoreboard flashed 6-3, the internet erupted harder than the arena. Eala began trending worldwide. On X, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. Fans were losing their minds. Tennis commentators were posting in real time. Memes popped up comparing her composure to icy supervillains. Players were calling her footwork insane, her strategy too mature, her confidence terrifyingly calm. But in the eye of this digital hurricane, the truth was clear. The match wasn't over. And the champion wasn't about to vanish quietly. What came next was the true test. The second set opened with force. The top seeds suddenly sharpened. Pride kicked in. Experience flared. She shifted strategies, attacked deeper, varied pace, pushed Eala off the baseline. For the first time, the young Filipino star felt the weight of the challenge. Her timing faltered. A few errors slipped in. The energy shifted. At 4-2, the arena came alive. Analysts nodded, convinced the comeback had begun. The veteran looked like herself again, strong, composed, dangerous. And that's when the turning point arrived. A rally nobody expected. 27 shots. Every inch of the court tested. Every muscle trembling. Every breath in the arena held hostage. The veteran sent a heavy drive cross-court. Eala chased it. Then a drop shot. Eala reached it. A flicked passing shot. Blocked. A moonball. Attacked. A laser down the line. Retrieved. It felt endless, like the rally existed outside of time. And then she did it. A forehand so perfectly placed it grazed the sideline. Not an inch out of place. A shot that froze the world number one in disbelief. She stared at the mark. The crowd erupted. It wasn't just a winner, it was a psychological dagger. A moment that shattered momentum, confidence, and resistance in one ruthless swing. From there, Eala didn't slow down. For straight games. Sharp, precise, unshakable. 6-3, 6-4. A result fans will talk about for years. But the fire behind that performance didn't appear overnight. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't magic. It was built long before the cameras arrived. To understand who Eala is, you have to go back to Manila, to humid courts where she trained as a child with a dream far bigger than her age. Early mornings, endless drills, a family that believed in her potential long before the world cared. Then came the Rafa Nadal Academy, a place where talent is sculpted into warriors. She trained beside champions, absorbed their discipline, learned their mentality, studied their hunger. Everything people saw on court that day, the patience, the maturity, the calm under pressure, was forged there. But behind the highlight reels, she lived through battles nobody sees. The pressure of a rising star. The weight of expectations from fans and sponsors. The emotional strain of representing an entire nation that hoped she would be the next global breakthrough. The whispers from critics. Too inconsistent. Not physically strong enough. Not ready for the big leagues. Comparisons to other rising talents who shined brightly but faded too fast. She heard all of it. But instead of breaking, she sharpened. Every doubt became fuel. And when she stepped onto that court against the world number one, she wasn't just fighting an opponent. She was confronting every shadow of uncertainty she had faced for years. When she won, it wasn't merely a scoreboard victory, it was internal. A quiet, powerful triumph over everything that once tried to limit her. By the time she entered the press conference, the world had already crowned her the newest threat on tour. Headlines blared across networks. Filipina Phenom shocks tennis world. New star emerges. Remember the name, Eala. Analysts debated her ceiling. Some said top 30 soon. Others pushed top 20. A few whispered something bolder. Grand Slam potential. Brands noticed. Her social media exploded. Fans across Southeast Asia celebrated with pride. But no reaction matched the emotional explosion back home. In Manila, bars roared. Malls blasted her match on giant screens. Families cried as they watched her raise her arms in victory. Flags waved. Strangers hugged. It felt bigger than a tennis win. It felt like representation. Pride. A proof that someone from the Philippines could walk into one of the hardest sports in the world and beat the very best. And through all of this noise, Eala remained grounded. Soft-spoken, humble, steady. That duality, the warrior on court and the gentle presence of it, is rare. And it's powerful. Because while fans see the highlights and trophies, what they often don't see is the heart behind the performance. And that may be her greatest weapon. Now, the tennis world waits. Analysts debate. Fans speculate. Critics scramble to rewrite their assessments. Because this wasn't just an upset. This was a shift. A line drawn in the sand by a young star who refuses to wait her turn. If she can dismantle a world #1 now, imagine what happens when she reaches her prime.